I really don't understand how this isn't bigger news. We've got a security incident for a congressional office tied to money, funding, budget. And about 6 days ago, they announced that they had a security incident. I mean, this raised my eyebrow due to who they are, but we all are getting a little bit of hack fatigue, right? How many security incidents could we possibly read about and talk about in a given week? This one's a little spicier, being that it is a US government entity and all that. And hey, we've also read a whole lot of headlines about the US decreasing cybersecurity funding, laying off tons of people at CISA. I know that CISA isn't like the CISO of the government and isn't responsible for securing these agencies and anything like that. But, doesn't look good optically when you're reducing a bunch of cybersecurity funding and then, you have these security incidents. But it gets worse because we kind of know how the security incident happened, not because they told us, but because we figured it out. But before I even get to that, the reason that I'm making this video today, 6 days after the initial incident was talked about, is because now, on November 10th, we have an announcement that this remains a live threat. As in, the hacker is not out of the network. This is not a contained incident. They're not all good. They're now considering this ongoing, threatening both incoming and outgoing correspondence. It's affecting all email communications. And based on what we think caused this incident, it's not just email, but they're basically calling themselves completely radioactive at this point. The CBO is saying, hey, do not trust anything you get from us. Don't click any links from us. And then don't share anything with us, either via email, Teams, Zoom, whatever. Don't share anything with us you wouldn't want just us to see. We are completely owned. Anything from us, anything to us cannot be trusted. This is an insane thing to say from a government office. They're saying if you talk to anyone digitally from the CBO, you need to get on some sort of analog communication with them and verify out of band that the person that you think you're talking to is the person you're talking to. While this may be like good hygiene security practice for highly sensitive stuff anyway, in the age of like AI voice cloning and social engineering and all this kind of stuff, this is kind of wild to just say this blanket. The CBO is saying, hey, if you're talking to anyone from us on the phone or Teams or Zoom, or over email, you got to make sure, you got to lay eyes on this person. You got to be absolutely certain that you're dealing with someone from us because we cannot be trusted. The reason I'm shocked that this isn't bigger news is the CBO isn't some whatever agency, especially in the time of a government shutdown and voting on all these bills and everything that's going on right now. The CBO is in constant communication with lawmakers with what financial impact their work that they're currently doing has. So you could imagine if all communications out of this should be considered tampered with, how that impacts a current active legislative session. Guys, this feels absolutely enormous to me, and I don't hear anyone talking about it. These little dribs and drabs of articles that I'm going and digging up that don't even really give us a whole lot of information besides, hey, they're owned, they're pop, don't trust anything out of them. Why are we not making a bigger deal of this one is a really good question to me. Obviously, they're saying foreign actors are suspected. So yeah, could you imagine that one of our foreign adversaries has control over the comms of the budget office in communication with our lawmakers? That's a scary thought to me. This article points out that this is just a pattern of government agencies not really having their cybersecurity story in order. So far out of order, in fact, that if we go and we look at this post by Kevin Beaumont, Gossie the dog, when he was talking about the Cisco Zero Day that was going out, I think I made a video about it. I at least made a short about it. Low Level made a video about it over on his channel on YouTube. Cisco was having a really bad week with a bunch of 0 days. And this is from October 1st. Kevin was one of these guys that likes to scan the internet when these big vulnerabilities came out. He did it with Citrix. Now he did it with Cisco. Guess what he found on October 1st was public on the internet with a vulnerable Cisco ASA device. Oh, would you look at that? The Congressional Budget Office. Last patched in 2024. So not even this 0 day that made all the headlines from Cisco, they hadn't patched since 2024. Literally put it on Mastodon next to the headline that we're talking about today. He's like, But if you go look at Kevin's threads about a lot of this, you can literally watch live as he finds out about these CVEs, starts scanning Shodan for this kind of stuff, and then running some of his own scans. Citing Gray Noise is scanning for a bunch of this stuff, attack traffic looking for vulnerabilities in the Cisco thing, in these CVEs. This is September 25th. And he's just publishing stats. Any website from .gov.uk had less than 1% of their boxes patched when he was writing this thread. And he's nice enough to put his scan data out on GitHub. So you can literally go over here, you can view the raw version of it, and here you go. You can just start ingesting his data. These are IPs with domains and dates of last known patch. So you can ingest this stuff, see if any domains that you own are on here, or any IPs in your IP space are on here, and you better get to patching. He's doing the hard work for you of finding this stuff on the internet. If for whatever reason you've got your head in the ground, you didn't realize that you were running a Cisco box on your edge network on the internet. So let's zoom out. What are these boxes that we're talking about? These are Cisco Secure Firewall ASA. This is their adaptive security appliance. So these are the kinds of devices that we've been screaming about as security people for a while, called edge devices. They're meant to live on the edge of your network. So they are going to be inherently riskier because they're not something that you can like shovel away internally and, maybe protect less because it's on the internal network. These are edge devices. These are things that are facilitating things like your VPN into your corporate network. So your employees need to be able to hit these devices from the internet to be able to tunnel into your network where it's trusted. But for whatever reason, people like to A, leave these things unpatched, and B, like to leave like the management interfaces of these things public as well, which you absolutely don't need to do. There's also an incredibly old and well-established in the enterprise piece of hardware here. Kevin's thread is just full of very concerning stats about this kind of stuff as he scans the internet for these ASA devices. So here's ASA devices with WebVPN enabled and their firmware year on the public internet. So we've got some with the firmware year 2020 still lingering around, but the average is around 18 months behind firmware patching for internet-facing devices. We've got a little phrase for these kinds of devices that are that far behind patching on the internet, and we're called certified pre-owned. These things, when you find them, you should consider them hacked, and you should be running an incident based on what could have an attacker done, both targeted or opportunistic, because you are absolutely running into opportunistic hackers that are just scanning the internet looking for boxes if you're running a box that far behind on a patch cycle on the internet. This does not take targeted APT nation state level attacks. This is just like go to Shodan or run your own scan and just find these boxes. And as Kevin states later in the thread, this isn't just a US problem. Governments worldwide have a patching problem. They are like one of the top people on here that just seem to lag on these things. He kind of notes that every time he's running these scans, less devices respond each time he scans. They're not blocking him. The devices are just offline. So there's regional government organizations like incident response teams called CERTs that are actually informing orgs to either patch or yank these things. Thanks, Kevin. Your free attack surface management. There you go. Gosty the dog as a service. So yeah, just circling back to the original story, I do not know why we are not making a bigger deal about the US government having a legitimate, serious office currently owned because of that kind of lackluster patching on their edge devices. This wasn't AI polymorphic malware. This wasn't even, sophisticated cybercrime, social engineering. This wasn't APTs burning a 0-day to get a foothold in our government or our critical infrastructure. This was a poor patch cycle. 2024 was the last time you patched for an edge device. This is crazy. This is kind of embarrassing. And if this is a sign of how anything is going in these offices, this is not even remotely the last kind of story like this that we're going to read. And it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. I guess we're lucky that they even are calling this a security incident and sending up the warning flags to say, hey, don't trust information from us. Because with that kind of vuln and that kind of access to the edge network, these kinds of attacks don't necessarily need to make a lot of noise. So I guess, hey, warning, Cisco customers, if you hadn't heard about this vuln, it's causing major waves, including in governments around the world. So we are well beyond like patch and move on. You are completely definitely owned if this is, one of your boxes still sitting on the internet. So like that thread showed, you're not just patching, you're probably nuking that box and pulling it off of the network. And you must be running an incident and figuring out what hackers did while they had access to those machines. All right, thanks so much. Hit all the YouTube buttons down below. Really appreciate it. Helps the channel out. Follow for more cybersecurity news.